The world's greatest serial killer may never be caught. If only he knew how to operate a computer. Imagine a person committing a serial killing who is also a friend of their victim. The city should have a well-known name and a doctor from above. This is an amazing story of Dr. Harold Shipman, who used his clinic not to save lives, but to take lives. In a small town called Hyde, in England, where only 30,000 people live. There, for 23 years, he carried out serial killings under everyone's nose. After putting more than 250 people to sleep, no one doubted Dr. Harold Shipman, and probably never would. If he had not made one small mistake. What was the reason for killing people? Why wasn't he caught for so long, and how police caught? Viewer Dr. Harold Shipman ran his clinic in a small town called Hyde near Manchester in England. The total population here was around 30,000, and out of that 3,000 people were patients of Dr. Shipman. The doctor would mostly target patients who lived alone and were old enough to die. Dr. Shipman used to give more time to these patients. He would go to their homes and listen to them, to ease the burden of their heart. It would make them realize that indeed they are alone, but Dr. Shipman is listening to everything they say. Some patients even trust Dr. Shipman so much that they have even given him the keys to their house. Because of his sympathetic behavior, he became quite popular in Hyde because people thought that he could cure old people by talking only. But under the guise of all this, he used to bring out all the details of who is alone at what time, who has how much wealth and how much property, who comes to the house and where do the relatives live. When Dr. Shipman was satisfied, he would kill his patient by giving him overdose of medicine. Now, since those patients were already more than 80 years old, no one would have suspected their death. This process continued for many years and no one suspected him. Only as long as he doesn't make a mistake himself. Dr. Shipman started his career in a town named Pontefract, which is 70 kilometers away from Hyde, where he works in a hospital. He then left and went to Todmorden, where he took up the position of general practitioner at the Ibrahim and Myad Medical Center. While on the job here, he was caught prescribing to some patients an overdose of the drug he was supposed to use himself. It's actually a painkiller, but it's quite an addictive medicine. Shipman had a habit of addiction of pethidine, and he would deliberately prescribe this medicine to his patients and give them a small amount while using the large amount himself. While the patients did not even need this little medicine. Due to this, patients feel very good after taking this medicine, while actually they did not know that they were taking drugs. This was the reason why patients of the Shipman were attracted towards him even if they did not want to. After being caught, the hospital administration fired Dr. Shipman and later went as far as cancelling his license, but Shipman was fined £600 and admitted to a rehabilitation center, which saved him from having his license revoked. After a brief stint at the center, when everyone forgot about him, he came to the Hyde, where he became a general practitioner at Donnybrook Medical Center. At 1980, he continued to practice at Gap's position, and in between he did not give up. Drug addiction. The murder of patients increased when he opened his own clinic in Hyde and built a good name in the city. For the next several years the matter went on like this, and no one suspected the actions of the doctor. For the first time, on March 1998, Dr. Linda Reynolds, who was the opposite of Shipman's clinic, worked at Brook Surgery, another hospital. He expressed concern over the high mortality rate among Shipman patients. They said Shipman, which runs a small clinic, has had 16 patients die in the past 3 months, compared to 14 at Brook Surgery, which has 3 times as many patients as Shipman's clinic. During the 80-year period, suspicion grew when it came to light that 16 patients were either buried or burned after their deaths. Let me tell you here that most Christians bury their loved ones after they die. Only some people decide to burn. Dr. Linda expressed her suspicions in a report to the Manchester coroner, which, along with all these details, also noted that among Dr. Shipman's 16 patients, most were elderly women who were found dead in their homes. And every time it cannot be agreed that most of these patients were there alone in their house with Dr. Shipman at the time of their death. Dr. Linda said that most of the deaths due to illness at home occur in bed. But Dr. Shipman's patients died in a strange way while sitting on a chair in well-worn clothes, or he went to the house for the first time and saw the patient in a dead state. It cannot be normal in any way. An investigation was also conducted on the basis of this vote, but the police did not find any evidence against Dr. Shipman and the investigation was closed after a month. When the patients of Dr. Shipman died, he used to sign Form B himself. The Form B is the form that the doctor treating the patient has to sign, in which he writes the death cause of the patient. Problem was, it was signed by friendly doctors or people who did not suspect it. In this way, he would write fake information in the death certificates of his patients and send them to rest without anyone suspecting anything. Due to this process, many deaths were left uninvestigated, and this was the reason why his murders were not disclosed yet. After the investigation was closed, Shipman also put 3 more people to death, but the time to be caught was not far away. The last victim of the Shipman was the former mayor of Hyde, 81-year-old Kathleen, who died at her home on June 14, 1998, was the last person who saw Kathleen alive before her death. He later signed the death certificate and wrote the cause of death in it as old age. Kathleen's daughter, Angela Vardev, was a lawyer who then suspected her mother's mysterious death when he found a will of her mother in which she named her house in the name of Dr. Shipman. No basis for suspicion. Rather, Angela doubts about this fact that her mother had 2 houses, while only one house is mentioned in the will. This shows that this testament was written by someone who has no knowledge of the second house. And he was Dr. Shipman. Angela Woodruff, who was the daughter of Kathleen, went to the police, who reopened the investigation. The body of Kathleen was exhumed from the grave and sent for autopsy. It was found that diamorphine in their body. When the police questioned Dr. Shipman, he said that Kathleen was addicted to heroin and that he had written this in his computer before treating her. Dr. Shipman recently started entries to a computerized medical journal. But they did not know that in this machine they have put the date before death, but the list of this file is automatically saved in the computer. When the police examined the entries in this computer, it was found that these entries were made after the death of Kathleen. This alone was not enough evidence to arrest the Shipman. The police also found the typewriter used to write the false declaration. It was found that some characters in the typewriter were not working. The exact same characters were also missing in the will. 7th September 1998, the police arrested Haide's favorite, Dr. Harold Shipman. When this matter was revealed, those people whose loved ones had been killed by the Shipman earlier also came forward. The police also investigated 15 other patients who had died by Shipman some time ago. A particular pattern was observed in all these cases. He gave a lethal dose of diamorphine and signed his own at death certificate and write old age at the cause of death. Cremation, also advised by the Shipman so that all the evidence would be erased after moving. When this matter was revealed, those people whose loved ones had been killed by the Shipman earlier also came forward. The police also investigated 15 other patients who had died by Shipman some time ago. A particular pattern was observed in all these cases, in which the patient is given a lethal dose of diamorphine. He would have signed the death certificate himself and used to write old age as the cause of death. The doctor himself would also advise cremation so that all the evidences can be erased. During the inquiry, the cases of all patients who died in care at the Shipman were revisited. The inquiry team investigated all the documents, health certificates, and medical records that were newly handled. Apart from this, family members of patients were also interviewed and some bodies were retrieved and forensic postmortems were conducted. The process was very detailed, and during that time, it was found that Shipman killed a total of 218 patients from 1975 until he was caught. This is a confirmed number, but in many cases they were not confirmed due to lack of evidence. There is an estimate that this number could be up to 260. The court awarded death sentence 15 times for 15 murders. That is, he will not come out of jail as long as he is alive. But in 2004 she would hang himself by tying a bed sheet to the bars of her cell. After His death. One of his prison mates made the astonishing revelation that Shipman had actually killed 508 people, not 218 or 207. And this thing was told to him himself. But the real reason for so many killings has not been revealed till date. Some people call it psycho, some say as a way to earn some money, and some people are also considering the effect of the Shipman's mother's death. Because his mother, who was a cancer patient, was given morphine as a painkiller. Experts believe that he might want to see his patients die by giving the same morphine. How did you like this story? Subscribe to the channel for more such information.